So I saw the second Joker movie and it was bad. But I'm sure that you've heard that opinion like 1,000 times already all over the internet. So for today, I kind of want to see like what the director was trying to say. Like even though the movie was bad, I think that there were some very interesting concepts within the movie, and I feel like some of them were quite relevant to like the present day sort of thing. And yeah, I just want to talk about like more than just saying oh it was bad. I just want to take a little bit of a deeper dive. But some of the things I liked, some of the things I didn't like. So let's start with the things I liked. I think the best way to go about watching this is to not think of it as like a movie about the Joker, but more of like a movie about Arthur Fleck, because it is more of like a character study on him rather than the Joker. Now, here's the thing: someone like Arthur Fleck cannot be the Joker, like from the comics. Arthur is not. How do I put this? He's not a very smart guy. Unfortunately, he's not very smart. He acts just on emotion, and if you look at comic book or even like the Arkham Knight version of Joker, he's like very calculated, he's very planned. I cannot imagine Arthur Fleck someone who suffers from like an insane level of like delusions, and he cannot like separate reality from fiction, and he has like no control over his emotions. I don't think Arthur Fleck is gonna be the prince of clown, prince of crime kind of person. I think he's gonna be more of a I got really angry so I did something and now I can't really do it again because now it's too scary for him. Arthur was never the Joker from the comics. That's what I think. I think Arthur was kind of like this symbol. This is what I kind of want to talk about like how it's like relevant to like present day. If you think about anything you care about, right? Like any sort of movement or ideology or beliefs and stuff, who gets the most popular in that? Is it the person who genuinely believes in those things, or is the person with the PR team, the person with the good cameras, the makeup, and who can present themselves as the one who truly believes in it and cares about it so much? If you look in your day to day, you'll notice that the people who truly feel for a cause or truly believe in something are not really the ones who are not really the ones who get all the attention. It's usually someone imitating that. And when I think of Arthur Fleck's Joker, I think Arthur Fleck's Joker is someone who like feels the things he says like to his heart, to his head. Like he genuinely feels it. He feels, I guess you could say, how like everyone abandoned him, how no one is there to like look out for him, how there's like no social services or anything. Even like the one lady who he spoke to, they got their funding cut in the first movie. So he genuinely feels it, but the thing is he cannot present it. Now the first movie will make you think that he did such a good job presenting it. No, the first movie was a chance event. It was just a coincidence, coming together of things in the perfect storm. It's not something he planned. His plan was originally to off himself at the show, not Murray. Arthur is not someone who can present himself as the Joker. He just happened to fall into the right place at the right time, and his emotions got the best of him at the right place at the right time. Again, Arthur is not the Joker from the comics. The Joker from the comics is someone who saw what Arthur did, who saw the riots and the clown stuff going on, and used it almost like a medium, right? Used it like a personality. This is not to say that the Joker from the comics is like a fake or something. I think obviously the Joker from the comics is also like clearly very much disturbed human being, very much a messed up human being with who knows what went wrong with them. Clearly a very evil person too, but he has his head on his shoulders. He can think straight. He has the ability to think very well. I'm not really that much into like that big of a comic book fan, so I think that's one of the reasons why I was able to enjoy this movie, because I wasn't like constantly comparing it in my head. But on YouTube I do like to watch like some people who explain comics. So there's this guy called like Mullet Man, I think, and in one of his series explanations he talked about I forget the name. It was like basically Robin, he went bad or something and he caught the Joker, and while he caught the Joker, I think his name is Deadshot or something. I can't remember, I'm sorry. But I remember the line. There's a line where Deadshot has like Joker caught, and Joker's trying to like make fun of him by saying that you can't kill me even though like I did so many bad things to you. And Deadshot says, you only pretend to be insane. You're not actually as crazy as you make everyone believe. You only pretend to be so that you don't have to justify the things you do. And when he says that to the Joker, he almost goes silent. Like, the Joker doesn't, he doesn't snap back. He doesn't have a witty comeback or anything. He just kind of goes silent and like looks to the ground. And to me, that's the comic book Joker. The comic book Joker is, like I said, clearly insane, unstable person, but he has his head on top of his shoulders. He can think, he can plan, he can scheme, and he uses insanity almost like a mask, a cover, like something to hide behind, so that he doesn't really have to confront with the things he does. I cannot imagine that being Arthur Fleck. Arthur Fleck is the person who felt it in his head, who felt it, like, actually genuinely believed in the things he said. And the Joker from the comic books is someone who saw the power behind what he did and kind of wants to use it. Think of it like this, like, I think even Batman in one of the Arkham movies says that, Bruce Wayne is a human. Humans could be hurt, could be compromised, could be killed, but Batman is a symbol. Even if Bruce gets compromised, someone else could take up the mantle and follow along as Batman. In the same way, I think the Joker is like a symbol. He's a symbol that's everything opposite of Batman, but he is a symbol nonetheless. And in the same way that Bruce Wayne kind of hides behind the mask of Batman, I think the Joker hides behind the mask of the Joker. And I think this was done pretty well for the most part, but I'll get back to it. There is some things I didn't like about it. I'll get back to this part again, don't worry. And another thing I liked is about this whole thing is how people associated their values with these things. So what I'm talking about here is like the people who supported Joker, they saw him as like almost like a rebel, like a freedom fighter, like standing up against the rich people who don't care about them, right? And the people who don't like the Joker see him as like a savage, as like an evil person, and blah 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 blah, all that stuff. And again, if you look at the present world, you'll see a lot of situations where it's like there's a group of people where one group says, oh, these are the most horrible, atrocious people in the world, we must get rid of them. And then another side says, no, they're actually freedom fighters, they're heroes, they're doing the right thing, and blah 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 blah. It's about how people associate what they believe and project them onto, like, I guess you could say, things that are powerful depending on the context. If the power threatens their existence, they see it in a negative light, and if the power seems to like align with them, they see it in a positive light. And just like in real life, a lot of times these things don't really correlate. Like, whether or not the Joker is trialed and sent to prison or is free, it's not going to realistically change the situation of anyone in Gotham City, right? Like, let's say in some freakish world, the Joker is just set free. It's not gonna make the lives of anyone in Gotham City any better. If anything, with Arthur Fleck's personality, he'll just end up getting killed by someone else, right? Which is what ends up happening in the movie. We'll get to that, don't worry. So I think the way that people associate meaning onto other people and project it is quite interesting. Even like Harley Quinn in a way does something like that, although she tried to trick him. So that's another thing. Another thing I really liked is that the music sequences, right? So the music sequences are bad, but I feel like, I don't know, this might be reach, I feel like they're bad almost on purpose. And I'll tell you why I say this, right? In the first movie also, there's like sequences where Arthur has delusions, like when he thinks he's in the show, in Murray's show, and then Murray puts a spotlight on him, and Arthur tells like why he believes in, like, how he takes care of his mother and stuff, and everybody like claps and is like cheerful of him. And even Murray's like, oh wow, that's really great, that's really cool and stuff like that. So people are like going along with the delusion, or like how when he tells stand-up comedy, people are like laughing, but then you get the reality where people are not laughing and stuff like that. But in the second movie, what they do is that, I think in the first music sequence where he starts dancing in the cafeteria area, people kind of go along with him, like the people in the background. But if you pay attention, you'll notice that the longer his delusions go on later on, the people in the background no longer like are happy or are dancing with him. They almost have the expression of like, oh my god, not this again, oh this guy's going at it again. And I think that's kind of what I meant by, I think it's bad on purpose, because it's supposed to give you like the difference between Arthur's delusion and the response of everyone else around him. Whereas in the first movie, when Arthur became delusional, everyone else around him also kind of like went along with his delusions in his head, but now he's being kind of like faced with the reality of the situation where everyone is not with him, where he'll be like in his state and he can still tell that the people around him are not with him. And that's what makes them like, look, the music sequences are not good, even with this explanation is still not good. But I feel like the discomfort I felt from it came not just from feeling like the music sequence is bad, but also from a sense of like awkwardness, you know. It's it's like when you do something stupid and someone records you doing it, and then you have to watch it back and you realize how stupid you really were, but at the time you were doing it you thought you were so smart, or you were justified or something like that. It's like that. It's embarrassing. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, it's embarrassing to watch it because it feels like that. And I think it's because of, again, if you pay attention to the background people, not everyone is as on the field with it. Everyone is not like, hey, we're happy, or like, you know, not everyone is feeling the mood. The most I felt this was during the interview where he was interviewing with that guy from the news TV show or something, and he started singing and stuff. But yeah, I think again it was bad, but I think partially it was just really awkward and embarrassing, and I think the awkwardness and embarrassment is on purpose, at least to a degree. I'm not sure. I can't really like draw the line on where it becomes intentional and where it's unintentional. I don't know. I think the interaction between Harley Quinn and the Joker is also pretty interesting, because that is also another thing where it's like people a lot of times kind of like crave power or to be seen, and sometimes when people do get seen, they get seen for something that they never expected. It's like something completely different. Think of like how many celebrities you know where it's like they're super famous and they're super popular, but they have like this almost fake persona of like, you know, maybe it's like being a super kind and genuine person. That's the fake persona. Maybe it's being like, oh, I'm so cool, you know, I don't care about anything, like that kind of persona. But you end up realizing that people like you for the persona and that you play, and not who you actually are. So even though Arthur wants to be seen by the world, he's not actually seen. He's almost like trapped inside the shell of Joker, and people just see what they want to see in him. And when that's no longer the case, they don't care. They just like abandon him, like, because they never actually cared about Arthur, the person who, you know, lived in a single room apartment with his mother and suffered his entire life with the priest. They don't care about that. They care about the fact that the person Joker is like a symbol of hope for them. It's about the other person. It's never about Arthur. I thought that was pretty good, and I think it was executed pretty well. I know that people say it's not. I think that concept was executed pretty well, at least in my opinion, even though a lot of the other things were bad, but I think that was done pretty well. I think another thing that I really liked was when Arthur was like representing himself, and he was like kind of like changing his voice to act. And again, this scene was very awkward, right? Like when you watch it, it's the same thing. It's like watching you do, it's like recording you doing something embarrassing and then you have to watch it back later. It's very embarrassing to watch Arthur kind of like put on a deep voice and act like he's this lawyer persona who's a Joker persona, some twisted version of the Joker slash lawyer persona that Arthur cooked up in his head, and he's trying to present himself as that, but it's obviously bad. But here's the thing, I think it's bad on purpose, because it's supposed to show that Arthur, the character, is not a good actor. Phoenix is a good actor. Arthur, the character, is not a good actor. So if Arthur was trying to pretend to be like, oh, I have another persona and this persona is a lawyer now, haha, I think it would come off horribly, which is what I felt when I watched it. Again, awkward. It was very awkward, very jarring, very weird. And I think it's pretty good. It reminds me of Barry. If you've seen Barry, it's like the same thing, right? The actor is an actual actor, but the actor has to play an actor who's a bad actor. You know, so it's like, I feel like it does require a level of skill to do that. That does sound pretty jarring when you just hear it, but I think it's pretty cool. And I think the point where that scene kind of peaked for me was when Larry, I forget his name, I think his name is Larry, his friend Larry, who he didn't kill, and he killed the other guy. His friend Larry says like, oh, do you know what they did to me, Arthur? And he's like crying and stuff, and you can see like Arthur kind of struggled to maintain the Joker persona, and like his voice is like breaking apart. It's going from the deep voice to the squeaky voice he normally has, and he's struggling. Like when you see that struggle that Arthur has, I think that's a pretty like from an acting point of view, I think that's pretty well done. Where he's trying to keep up a facade, but he's failing, and because he's Arthur, he's not very good at holding it together, and you can just tell from like afar. I like that scene. I really like that scene. I really like the part where like he kind of like loses it completely, and what do you say it? Okay, I wouldn't say I really liked it. It's like a mixed bag more. Like I liked how when the judge like tells that he's guilty, you can tell on his face how he doesn't like doesn't or slash isn't the Joker anymore, and he doesn't want to be the Joker anymore, and you can just see how like the reality of it kind of like set in, and how like his sense of self grandeur and greatness that he has in his head is like slowly disappearing away. And I think that scene also, like, again, great acting. And I think that scene is the perfect place for me to switch to the negatives of this movie, the things that I didn't like personally, and I didn't like them to the point that I think all these good things are overshadowed by the bad things. The bad, oh god. I mean, the music. Let's just get the musical part out of it. Okay, the musicals were bad. I felt like there was too many of them. They didn't make a lot of sense a lot of times. A lot of times I felt like the movie was getting to a good part and then they'll switch to a musical, and it would annoy me so much. And yeah, I mean, sure, there were maybe some cool intentions behind them, but overall the execution was pretty lackluster. I didn't like it. Musicals, I wish this movie had like maybe 1 or 2 music sequences, but not this many, dude. It's too much. It's too much music. Maybe 1 or 2 would have been fine, but this many was bad. Then another thing is Lady Gaga's performance. She was fine, actually. She was decent, but I felt like she just had like 2 or 3 expressions. Like, she barely acted. Again, she was fine. She wasn't like bad. Like, it never like took me out of the movie, but I did feel like she was kind of just like a plastic face. Like, for example, the sequence when Arthur is like calling her, and like Arthur kind of figures out that she lied to him. I felt like her facial expressions are so like, it's like she's reading a script. I'm sorry. The sequence where she was like, Arthur catches her lying, I thought we'll see at least a little bit more, something on her face. I don't know what exactly I was expecting. I'm not an actor. I don't know. I hoped a bit more would happen. It didn't. So Lady Gaga is fine, but it's okay. When you compare her acting to like Phoenix's, it does kind of, you do feel a difference. But as long as you don't do that, it's fine. It's fine. It's not that big of a deal. It's fine. You can just kind of like not see it or whatever. Now to the really bad stuff. Now these are the things that I think that actually like kill this movie. Right? These are the things that I think like put a stake through its heart. A stake? Is it stake or I don't know. The wooden spike thingy or the metal. I don't know. Stop. I'm going on a tangent. This scene killed this movie for me. So the scene where Arthur goes he's in the courtroom and he starts this big speech where like, there was never a Joker, or there's no more Joker. That was bad. That was really bad. That scene was so bad because it just felt like someone giving a PSA lecture to the audience, being like, hey guys, by the way, there is no Joker. Okay, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. It was unnecessary too, because I think if you look at this movie so far, the way they've shown things has been more of show and not tell, right? They'll show something happen and how it like Phoenix will act, and you can tell what happens. For example, they could have removed the entire speech of there's no more Joker. They could have removed the entire speech and just shown the part where the judge makes him guilty. What do you call it? Judges him as guilty. And you can see the facial expressions on him change, and like you see his face and how he reacts. And from that alone, you could have seen like, there's a Joker persona. It's like no longer in a set. Like, I could tell, maybe not everyone, but like I think most people could tell, right? Right? Surely, right, guys? I feel like that scene was good enough on its own, where I could interpret that the Joker persona had like almost like died inside of him, because all that grandeur and that attention he got, it's like fading away, and now he realizes, I'm screwed. I'm just in this messed up situation now. And that scene was enough. The speech was overbearing. It was unnecessary. It felt like someone was making me sit down and be like, here's a PSA, guys. And it felt like those movies like what do you call it? The satirical movies like what am I thinking of? Patrick Bateman, dude, what's that movie called? American Psycho, or Fight Club, or Wolf of Wall Street. Like, these movies are satire. They're actually like making fun of the protagonist, right? They're making fun of the protagonist, but there's like a huge culture of people around them where they don't understand that they're making fun of the protagonist, so they almost see them as like idols, where it's like, no, you're not supposed to see them as idols, you're supposed to look at how ridiculous they are, how stupid they are, and the show's entire point is to show how stupid they are. It felt like the people writing the script for this movie felt like, oh, maybe if we don't say it outright, people might latch on to Arthur Fleck as like one of these sort of misunderstood heroes sort of thing. So they had to be like, hey, it felt like this. Okay, it felt like the person who made the movie is like, hey, I know you're stupid, the audience, I know you guys are like really dumb, so let me just sit down with you and explain to you what I'm trying to tell you. It felt so bad and forced. The speech scene where he says there's no more Joker should have been removed, and maybe that would have not made the intention of the movie clear. I don't care. Okay, I'm sorry, there's always going to be dumb people like that. You can't try to be like, I'm gonna make sure there's no, yeah, that's another thing. It felt like the movie is trying to be like, I'm gonna make sure there's no way anyone can be like, hyped up by this character, or like, let me ruin this character for you. I think the speech scene horrible. That actually killed the movie. Like the songs, Lady Gaga, those things didn't. They were like, I could look away from them. But the speech scene, horrible. Should not exist. Should not have happened at all. And the second scene that killed the movie for me is the part where he gets stabbed and he gets killed. To be honest, him getting stabbed and killed is fine. I can kind of see that happening, and I wouldn't even say that's like that shocking or surprising. Like, yeah, he it's better than him getting electrocuted. I think that him getting the chair or him getting killed by the government would have been a worse ending. So I think him getting stabbed and killed is fine. But like the execution of it, right? It's so bad. Like the fact that I'll tell you why it's bad. Even the dialogue of that scene is so bad. If you remember when Arthur was about to shoot Murray, he was drowning himself in self-pity. So he would say things like he said, let me tell a joke, right? You want to hear a joke? And if you hear the joke, Arthur says like, what do you get when you take a mentally ill loner with a society that abandons him and treats him like trash? And then he shoots Murray, right? If you look at that sequence, Arthur self-pities him. Like he makes himself look like this sad little victim and stuff like that, right? That's how he paints himself within the context of that speech. Now, if you look at this sequence where Arthur gets killed, the guy who kills him, he says, "What do you get when a psychopath meets a clown?" Right? First of all, I don't think a person who is like in that state of mind would be like, "Hey, I'm a psychopath, guys. Hey, guys, what do you think of me being a psychopath?" That's not how it felt. Weird. It felt like someone was trying to role play as the future Joker or whatever. I don't think he would call himself a psychopath. My opinion. Okay, I think that guy would say something else. I don't think he would say, "What do you get when a psychopath meets a clown at a bar?" I think he would say he was more like a crazy fan. Like from the way he was acting, he was more like a crazy fan or something. So he should say something like, okay, I can't think of the exact words. Maybe like, "What do you get when like someone who really looked up to you meets you in the bar," or something like that. It shouldn't have been, "What do you get when a psychopath meets a clown in a bar?" because someone in that state of mind would never refer to themselves as a psychopath, especially in that sequence, because it just doesn't make sense to me. Maybe they do. Maybe crazy people do refer to themselves as psychopaths, and I'm the stupid one. But it just felt so odd. It felt like it didn't feel like even in like the killer has a very small scene, right? So we don't really get their personality, but it felt like their personality was manufactured by someone who despises them. So the person who kills the Joker, his personality was made by an author who despises that person. So he's like, "Oh, I'm a psychopath. Hey, look at me, I'm a psychopath." You know what I mean? It's just weird, really weird. I didn't like it. That's the first thing. Second thing, him getting stabbed, that's fine. I think that's reasonable. I can see that happening. Him cutting his own face to make it seem like he's the Heath Ledger. Again, comic book and Arkham Knight Jokers are highly intelligent. They are crazy, but they're highly intelligent. And I cannot imagine Heath Ledger's Joker acting that way. Even if he was like a young guy or whatever at that time. That is not Heath Ledger's Joker, and implying that was stupid. They should have just made him a random person. I don't know why they did that. It was so unnecessary. Like, why did they have to do that? You don't need a replacement for the Joker on the spot. You could just imply that someone else from that big, like Gotham entire city knew about this guy. You could just imply that someone from that crowd just took the mantle, or was as crazy enough to use his name to become the Crown Prince of Crime or whatever. I don't know why they try to imply that this stupid killer is Heath Ledger's Joker. It's not. Heath Ledger's Joker, again, super intelligent guy. He is crazy and he does act crazy, but he's not crazy without reason. And I cannot imagine him acting that, I don't know, pathetic, like the way he like kind of stands next to the wall and like squirms and stuff. I don't know. Again, it felt like that the killer's entire personality was made by someone who despises him and like hates the character and wants to make sure that anyone watching this doesn't get any ideas, and it's like trying to make them look as stupid and weird as possible so that people like feel repulsed by the character, so that no one thinks he's cool, is what I'm trying to say. And again, that's so weird. Like whenever people do that, the movies suck when people try to do that, is what I'm trying to say. That's all. And it doesn't make sense also, because that guy was there from the start of the movie, right? You see him standing in the background. He always acted kind of a normal person, and it's like in that one sequence he just completely loses it. He's like, I don't know, he just becomes. I didn't like that scene, guys, if you can't tell. That was one of the worst scenes in that entire movie. Yeah, that was horrible. Overall, I think the point of this movie is that, aside from the cringe that it was, right, I think the movie is kind of realistic goals. Like, if in our current world, like let's say someone has a moment out like the Joker, where they lash out at the world because they have been treated unfairly, right? And it does happen every now and then. If you watch the news, you'll see stuff like this happening almost daily nowadays. It's a realistic progression of what happens to a person like that, which is, sure, they might get some support, sure, they might get a bunch of stuff, but in the end they're alone. They're by themselves. They get caught. They're not smart enough to, they're not the superheroes who are smart enough to, outsmart the entire system. And, they're the one, they're just so smart that nobody can get to them. They just do whatever they want. That's not what happens on a day-to-day basis. On a day-to-day basis, what happens when someone like this lashes out is that they get caught, they get trialed, they get put in prison, they suffer for it for the rest of their lives, and then they die. That's what happens. And I think the movie does do a good job of kind of showcasing that. I just wish it wasn't so preachy at moments. Like I said, the Joker speech and the part where he gets killed, those two sequences could have just been removed, and the movie would have been, for me personally, a lot better, because those two scenes do like kill the movie for me. But yeah, I think the movie is a realistic take on Arthur Fleck as a person, and what happens to a person who gets treated really badly, and a lot of it is not his fault, but ultimately what happens to a person who is, who has mental health issues, who's not taken care of by society, who's abandoned by, everyone, who's been treated their entire lives, and then they finally lash out, and well, they can't handle it. What do you think happens to like a mentally ill person when they lash out and they're, being trialed in court? Do you think suddenly they unlock like the third chakra in their brain and they become a hyper intelligent person who can outsmart any other lawyers or detectives, and they just win the case and just walk out? No. They lose everything. They get sentenced to death, and then they end up getting killed in the prison by a nobody. In fact, I think that Joker getting killed by someone who has no reputation, like who isn't the Heath Ledger Joker, like just a random guy who was maybe his fan, maybe jealous of his attention, maybe just didn't like him, just a random guy killed him. That would have been more poetic in a way, because that's how the Joker was. He was a nobody. He's just a nobody. Nobody knows him. Nobody cares about him. And he killed Murray Franklin, who's like a celebrity and everybody kind of loves him. And I think that Joker being killed by a nobody, someone who has no previous or future reputation, and also not implying any of that, would be more poetic than what they did in the end. But yeah, I think, again, like I said, I just want to say sorry to all the comic book fans. I know that you guys are probably seething with this explanation, because you're like, what the heck, this is not who he is. But again, if you see it as a story of Arthur Fleck, I think it's it's a decent movie. It's a good watch if you can handle the cringe. But that's pretty much all I had to say. This has been going on for way too long. I've never spoken this much, and never done a movie review on here too. I don't know if you guys will like this. If you do let me know, because a lot of things are gonna change in this channel, and I'm not sure if everyone will like that, but we'll see. I'm not sure. Hopefully this does well. Anyways, see you. Bye.